Guys, right away we have some of the fantastic news. Ukraine continued to assault in Pokrovsk direction, and it seems like Ukraine even was capable to liberate Peshchana village because the tank of the Ukrainian army was spotted at the very edge, at the western outskirt of Peshchana. And we also have the other confirmation from the other media source, and this image we're gonna see it with you later on. So Noyev reports that Ukraine went full in Peshchana. Like 2 days ago, Ukraine started this attack operation, or maybe we may call it definitely a counterattack, because Russia also tries to move forward towards Pokrovsk, and Pokrovsk is not really far away, but Ukraine takes initiative on the front lines, breaks Russian defense and goes in attack. And yeah, I forgot to say something. Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's go! This is the map of the Myko Center 3. This analytic does a great job analyzing the situation on the front lines, and it's great for us. So here we have the vehicle. We may check the original information probably on X, and here the source says that the Ukrainian tank was hit, so was destroyed even. Well, actually they refer to the Telegram video saying the tank was destroyed, but it's hard to tell. Probably it was hit by the FPV drone or maybe by the local mine. Maybe the tank is damaged. And still Ukraine has the chance to evacuate it, but I don't see any signs of the crew and I don't see the fire on this image. But that's how we know the presence of the Ukrainian army at the edge of Peshchana, and maybe I was too fast with my analysis that Ukraine was capable to liberate the village, because Ukrainian army is unable to secure its position in Peshchana. That's why we see it in the gray zone. So now Ukraine has two of the attack vectors or counterattack vectors, you may call them, one towards Kotlin and the other one towards Peshchana and probably Vovkove. It's very interesting because for Russia, taking this town of Pokrovsk is one of their main goals, and still they're unable to move to the Pokrovsk without being stopped by Ukrainian counterattacks. By the way, my friends, one of the vehicles which was caputed by Ukrainian side was M113, and it wasn't a friendly fire. I'll tell you more after I'll speak about some other news. Guys, we are on the ground news with you. As you can see, they have dedicated column for the war in Ukraine. This news aggregator gives you up-to-date information which is neatly arranged and well organized for the particular topic in what you're interested in. So it's my morning routine to check out the ground news just to get updated. And you may subscribe for the ground news using my personal link, it's ground.news/Dennis. And here just let's check out the recent article. Trump plan to end the Ukraine war must prevent new Russian aggression, Zelensky says. Yes, I'm always saying about it, that without the proper security guarantees, any sort of the ceasefire is just temporary. Russians' aim is to conquer Ukraine, unfortunately. So totally, 64 of the news sources report about the news. On the right-hand side, you can see most of the news sources. As you may see, the news stays mostly within the high factuality, and many of the countries report about it, including Ukraine. On the left, you can see the articles themselves, I mean original. If you click on them, you'll see the news origin. Also here you can see the ownership of the media. For example, this one belongs to the government of Japan, but at the same time it presents the high factuality, but lower this news source is low factuality, so for sure I'll choose, for example, this one. By the way, I have the aviation channel and ground news helps me with that as well. For example, my latest video was about the Philadelphia plane crash. Then I woke up in the morning, I checked out this information at first from the ground news. So it's very convenient for me to be updated on the most critical events of the day and search for particular news relative to my topic, like for example the war in Ukraine or aviation news. Like for example the latest one, then Japan Airlines plane clips Delta Jet Seattle Europe. So I'll just click the first news available, and definitely Japan Airlines plane clips Delta flight. So Japan Airlines hit Delta plane during taxi. Passengers are safe, they were escorted from both of the planes. So again, ground news is very useful for me. I can check out any sort of the update of particular topic which is interesting for me. Guys, it's my huge recommendation to subscribe for the ground news using my personal link ground.news/Dennis. You may find it in the video description below, and here you have 40% off Vantage plan which I use for my account. It just gives you all of the possible tools of this platform. And you know, the ground news itself is not a big media corporation, they rely on our subscriptions. Plus they're also the long-term sponsor of my channel, so if you support them, you also support me. So please check out my personal link in the video description below, again, for the ground news. Ground News, thank you so much for your kind support and for sponsoring this video. Now let's go back to the Frontlines update. So here's the vehicle which I showed you before. It is M113 BMP, or maybe some of the infantry transport vehicle, because I'm not sure whether it had, in this particular case, some gun at the top. So what happened that Russians trophied this vehicle from Ukrainian side and also tried to attack Ukrainian positions, yes, on the same vehicle, and Ukraine spotted it, plus launched some of the FPV drones with artillery fire. In the Russian media they say that Ukraine hits its own vehicle, so it was a friendly fire. Yes, Ukraine hits its own vehicle, but it was captured by Russia, and it was not a friendly fire. Here this image just partially shows the outcome of the Ukrainian strike. I cannot show you more on this platform, but there are some of the Russians lying around, so you may definitely say that it's the Russian vehicle. That's how Russians mask their own surveillance drones in Ukrainian color with the Ukrainian flag. Yeah, the cross is also one of the symbols of Ukrainian army, but for sure without those black sides. This is one of the Russian surveillance drones, looks like Zala for me. Why can I say that it is 100% Russian drone? Because everything is written on Russian. You don't have any sort of the Russian language marks on Ukrainian weaponry except from the Soviet-made weapons. Why do Russians put those marks here? Well, they know that Ukrainian drone operators, they see the enemy drones before they strike those, so maybe it's done to confuse our operators, but they know how Zala looks, like Russian surveillance drone. And by the way, guys, not far away from Peshana, Ukraine also goes on a counterattack towards Dachinsk. Quite successful counterattack, I would say. At least some part of the village was liberated. Well, we have the video, but I cannot show it to you here because they're just the Russian infantry soldiers which were zeroed in the place. And the other video from the place shows pretty much the similar stuff. Well, it means that Ukraine not just assaults over here, but goes on attack from this direction. It's the full-scale counterattack of Ukraine. The Russian defense is not broken yet, and the scale of this counterattack, well, it's not that significant as it could be, but those small counterattacks actually stop the Russian army advancement to Pokrovsk, and it's the most important thing. By the way, from the deep state military map, we also have the confirmation that Ukraine advanced towards Dachinsk. Deep state also says that Ukraine went on a small counterattack in Vodinaya Druga. Let's check out update yesterday today, but Russia at the same time also goes more closer to this crossroad, and I guess they're very close to cut it completely. Maybe it was the attempt for Ukraine to cut this another Russian attack vector, but can Ukraine push Russians out from this crossroad? Well, it's a big question. What I say that Russians moved a little in Dachna, so yesterday today they're on a small short assault, plus they also expand the gray area towards Preobrazhenka, so yesterday and today. About the eastern front lines, those were the only changes, and I would say that Ukraine in the east actually gained more territories than the Russian army for a very long time. It basically means that the Russian army is experiencing a huge crisis. But now let's go to the Kursk direction, because the situation there is kind of interesting. You see here it was a successful breakthrough of Ukrainian army towards Fansevka. Russians were pushed away, but at the same time Ukraine lost many of the vehicles for this operation. Well, Russia lost some too, but as you can see, attacking side always has more significant losses compared to the side in defense. Well, about the Russian vehicles, we have the confirmation that they were captured from Ukrainian side, unfortunately too. Well, I guess that this operation was done by Ukraine to create some sort of the buffer area before Sudzha, because it's the main supply hub for Ukrainian army in entire Kursk region. It was very vulnerable, especially when Russians advanced towards Makhnovka village, but now Russians were pushed kind of far away. And you know what? Ukraine started one more counterattack in the Kursk region from the village of Nikolaevka towards Kruglenka. Ukraine gained some of the territories, and this Ukrainian attack also confirmed by the deep state military map, so it was yesterday and it is today. But at the same time you can see that Russia tries to attack Ukraine towards Malaya Lochna. It means that Russians also took this ground recently, so one side goes to the other way, the other side goes to the other way. And again we have the confirmation that North Koreans were sent back to the Kursk region. Couple of days ago, 47th Brigade published this video of how they used the cluster munition shells against North Koreans. This video with my detailed comments I already shared on my Rumble channel, because it has less censorship than YouTube. So for this day about the Kursk region in general, I don't see how Russia takes initiative there. They tried to do it, like advance into Sudzha, also they want to strike Ukraine in Malaya Lochna, and roughly 2 months ago they were quite successful in Kursk. Ukrainian army was losing the territory there, but now not any longer. Ukraine even goes on counterattacks here, before Ukraine tried to go to Большое Солдатское, but this operation wasn't that successful. It was stopped near Berdin, but surprisingly, as for me, Ukraine still keeps control over the part of the Kursk region. Interesting. And here is the map which shows the elements of the defense from both of the sides. Only front lines in Donetsk and Zaporizhia are presented, and as you can see, Ukraine has already created significant defense lines similar to what Russia built before, Surovikin lines. And behind Pokrovsk there is also kind of the solid line before Pavlograd. I saw those kind of the images before, which were made by many of the analytics, but this is the most detailed, and it shows that definitely Ukraine has defense lines. But I think that Ukraine should build more of those, especially before Pavlograd. Because if the United States government decides to cut all of the military support for Ukraine, well, in that case, defense is the only option for Ukraine, and unfortunately, Russians will go forward taking more territories. It's imminent. USA supplied the most of the weaponry to Ukraine, and I hope that the support of Ukraine will continue. Today, with his tweet, Senator Joe Wilson, probably from the Republican Party, said that he will introduce a Freedom First Land-Lease Act, flexible authorities to send war-winning weapons to our partners, including Ukraine, to deter war criminal Putin, as Biden should have done long ago. Bring Russia to the table through American strength. Well, this policy is good, but unfortunately there are not many guys like Joe Wilson in the Republican Party and especially in MAGA establishment. I will expedite a little and will show you a Delulu opinion from the same MAGA group.
Alps, which is probably the most expensive town in the world. I was not there to ski, for the record. But the whole town is Ukrainian. All the visitors are Ukrainian, and they're rolling into Air Maze and dropping $1 million in an afternoon. Okay, so it's all through Europe. You see this. The richest people are the Ukrainians. That money is ours. It belongs to me and you and every other American taxpayer. That's where it's going. Second fact, not guess. Fact is the Ukrainian military is selling a huge percentage, up to half of the arms that we send them. Half. And I'm not guessing this. I know that for a fact. Okay, not speculation. And they're selling it, and a lot of it's winding up with the drug cartels on our border. So this is a crime, what's happening. Our intel agencies are fully aware of this. You tell me they're not profiting from this. Of course, you think CIA is not profiting from this? Yes, they are. I can't prove that, but I believe that. But they don't know this. I know this, but they don't know this. They know this. And no one is saying it. Like, no American seems aware of this. We're sending these arms to Ukraine, hundreds of billions of dollars, and it's being stolen and sold to our actual enemies. Like, what the? I'm trying not to swear. What is this?
Yeah, well, the reason why is because...
Like, no any proofs are presented here by this Delulu... sorry guys, I cannot say bad words either, but you understand me. And even Osinit Defender, which is usually kind of neutral, says that Tucker Carlson is once again pushing literal propaganda being spread by the Russian state. He basically says that his misinformation and lies are facts. Yeah, of all the useful idiots used by the Russians, Tucker might be the biggest idiot of them all. But you know what? This idiot is very close to the United States president as well, by the way, as this idiot. I would say that they're almost the same with their lies. So for sure, Donald Trump, whether he likes it or not, was influenced or is influenced by his circle. On the other hand, there are guys like Keith Kellogg who are very professional. In the article here, which I put on Patreon, there is the conclusion that Mr. Kellogg has not enough information about the intentions of Donald Trump, about his policy relative to Ukraine, and that creates lots of the obstacles. By the way, here's a daughter of Kate Kellogg. Her name is Megan Mops, and she's the president of the Waltherman Foundation, which is one of the main funds used for supplying humanitarian support for Ukraine. Fund organized its supply hub right at the Romanian border. Mostly they supply medical equipment. Also, the fund organizes evacuation of the wounded American personnel, volunteers who fight in Ukraine, and they also help with their medical treatment, for example, in Germany. Also, they help to return bodies of those American citizens who lost their lives in Ukraine. So we have some of the good people out there in the Trump's camp. And I just hope that they'll have more influence on Donald Trump, because those two guys are really dangerous. Well, the policy of the modern United States is kind of interesting. So Trump raises tariffs on aluminum, steel imports in the latest trade war. The problem for us, like for democratic countries and for the United States itself, that export of steel, aluminum hits the allies of the United States mostly. Again, it's about Canada, Mexico, and European Union, then Brazil, South Korea, Japan, and only after that it will hit China just a little. Compared to Canada, you can see those numbers are uncomparable. So by the time there is the hot war between democracies and autocracies, which is now happening in Ukraine, Donald Trump has decided to start a tariff war, but not between autocracies and democracies. He does it against their own allies, which is very profitable for Russia and China. Also yesterday, again, Donald Trump confirms that he wants to remove Palestinians from their land and they would not have a right to return to Gaza. Well, Donald Trump says so many reckless things that, in my opinion, if he wants to introduce them in real life, he would face severe circumstances, also for his personal power. And you see what happens now. Hamas says it will stop releasing Israeli hostages, throwing Gaza ceasefire into doubt. Well, actually, from the very beginning, I thought that this peace deal would not last for a very long time, and probably Hamas decided to do this step after Donald Trump's rhetorics towards Gaza. So something should be done with this group, not with Gaza people, but how to do it, no one knows. Meanwhile, I'm still grateful that the current administration at least didn't cut the military support for Ukraine from the previous packages, so there have been lots of the deliveries recently to Poland. Those cargo airplanes are flying really hard there, delivering for sure military equipment. But again, about the future perspectives, whether Donald Trump is willing to continue the support of Ukraine with more weaponry, because what was taken under the previous White House administration will expire soon, well, that's a big question. And here The Guardian says absolutely the same stuff that I tell you, my friends. So if Donald Trump is unable to achieve his victory to stop the war in Ukraine very soon, he might just abandon Ukraine. So here they say that Trump might instead slide to a policy of malign neglect towards Ukraine, especially if Kyiv adopts hardline bargaining position. Or if he senses that Putin is winning the war and Trump wants to avoid hitching his cart to a losing horse. In this case, Trump could lambast Russia for the violence and yet do little to stop its forces from pulverizing the rest of Ukraine. Guys, as you see, we again speak about the United States politics, but it influences Ukraine a lot. That is why I'm actually forced to speak about it. After all, United States is the biggest economy in the world, but with unstable politician environment, I would say. And yeah, it influences everyone. Now, my friends, please don't forget to check out my personal link in the video description just below, where you may find the Ground News, the platform which I use daily to get updated on the news around the world, especially on Ukrainian topic. My huge recommendation for you, my friends. And as usual, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are. Have a great time.